Hi, it's Chris from Driver Training Limited. In today's video, we're going to look at another one of our Featherstone ADI Part 2 test routes. Remember, as you come out of the test centre, you're coming out onto a national speed limit road. So you need to put your foot down and get as close to the speed limit as you can. Because remember, whatever is coming up behind you is probably going to be doing close to, if not on, the national speed limit. As we come down, our first thing to look out for, and it's always harder when the trees and bushes are overgrown, but on the floor we can see our 30-mile-an-hour limit, and behind the hedge we can see the sign as well. So it's really important to look for that, otherwise your part 2 is over before you're less than 30 seconds from the test centre. As we come down, the next thing to look out for is the sign on the left that tells us we have an arched bridge coming up. So we know larger vehicles are going to be in the middle, but is the car that's coming towards us going to go through? The sign on the left says we have priority. It doesn't mean you'll get it though. Always look to the other side of that bridge to see what's happening. On this route, you'll be asked to turn left, and very often there are parked vehicles, which is what happens here. And as you can see, the car coming towards us means at this point we need to stop. So if you can't see round the bend or the corner, always think, what if? What if there is something parked there? Now it's just a case of remembering that if you get asked to pull up, make sure you're not opposite a bus stop, make sure there are no junctions, no road markings. Now it's a case of remembering that it's still a 30-mile-an-hour road, no repeat signs, no 40s, 50s, so we know for a fact it's still 30. At the end of this road, if you're on this particular test route, you'll be asked to turn left. Now, already on the left, we can see the change of speed limit sign to 40. Here, you often get a queue of traffic or vehicles coming from the other side. Make sure they haven't been caught in the middle. Then just as your lights change, they're starting to go as well. As we come round in front of us, now we can see the two changes of speed limit sign back to 30. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss this, and of course on a dual carriageway part like this, it's easy to think it's at least 40, and we know that's not the case. At the roundabout on this route, you'll be asked to go right, second exit. So we get in the right hand lane, and on the approach it's just making sure that the vehicles are going where you think they are, because it's quite a fast roundabout. People get in the wrong lane, you need to make sure. As we come across, you see the lane widens. Generally a choice of 2 lanes would mean we get in the left hand lane. However, one of the issues with this, look at the lorry coming up. He pulls out and stops across the line. So if we were in that left lane, you'd have to stop. So on the ADI Part 2, you're allowed to come off in the right hand lane, make sure it's safe with mirrors and signal, and move back to the left. But if you're teaching your learners, generally you would say to them, stay in that left lane, because anybody in a rush could try undertaking you going round that roundabout, or you might get caught in the right hand lane and nobody lets you back in. And next point to look out for is as we come down, can you see the sign just down on the left there? Tells us there's a sharp bend coming up and to reduce our speed. Now at this point we can't see round the bend, it's not opening up, so we do know that it's quite sharp. Also, if you look opposite, there's black and white chevrons to tell you again it is quite a tight bend. It takes a lot of people by surprise as to the sharpness of it. So look at the signs, react to what we see, use what's called the vanishing point to know what you need to do with your speed at that point. As we said earlier, the sign on the left is going to tell us that we have priority, but as we look down, is anything already coming through, regardless of what that sign says? So it's always good to look ahead, plan ahead, and think, what if? Coming down to the roundabout, just thought we'd point out on the right by the crossing is really hidden. So there are many times that people come across from the shops and people don't recognize it. Now, a common problem is, can you see, because the pedestrian crossing is in use to the right, the traffic is backed up onto the roundabout. If you're not paying attention to that, the danger is that you just pull out, go behind the lorry, and you've then blocked the roundabout. So you have to make sure that the roundabout is clear and that you're not going to block it before going into it. As we come round the roundabout, we're thinking new road, is there a new speed limit? And we can see not only is there now a change to 40, there are average speed cameras down this road as well. With the parked vehicles, because it's 2 lanes, you do have to do mirrors and signal if you're changing lanes. Don't just drift across without thinking about that point. On the roundabout, when it's busy, it's worth looking ahead to see that we've got the keep clear boxes, and we don't want to get caught in those. So always be looking out for, are there any traffic jams or congestion before you decide. Here, sometimes it's just watching for the bus pulling out, because if there's traffic at the side, you're going to have to react to it. The key to the ADI Part 2 is looking and planning ahead. Now, as we look in front of us, we want to be thinking, why is that lorry changing lanes? Is it because he needs to go in that direction, or is there something in front? The fact that the car is now braking and trying to change lanes, we can see on the left there the cyclist. So now we've got to be looking, is it safe for us to move over and get round him before we get to him? Otherwise, situations like that can just take you by surprise, and that's the end of your ADI Part 2. And as you can see, you can have lorries at the side of you at that point as well. And that brings us to a point that catches learners out and those doing the ADI Part 2. The sign on the left tells us the bus lane is about to begin. So we can see on the left the bus lane opens up just after the crossing. And so now we've got that solid line. There's a break in the middle for cars turning into that road on the left. But that doesn't mean that the bus lane ends. So until we see a sign saying bus lane ends, we know it hasn't. There will be gaps as you come down. The next mistake is people think that traffic light on the left is for them and they stop where the white car is. But you can see the one behind it was actually on green. Once again, you get a gap in the bus lane for vehicles who are turning left going into the shops, but the bus lane has not ended. So you've got to make sure of that. Also, as we come round now, let me show you something again that catches people out. At this point, they'll go into the left lane and be caught by the keep clear boxes. Or at this point on the left, we can see that it's reminding us that that bus lane is about to begin again. So like this trainee does, he goes into the left lane to have to come back out. Now it's telling us in that bus lane, it runs from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You'll get buses, bikes and taxis. So once again, it's better to stay in the lane we're in. And the sign confirms that the bus lane has cameras as well. So 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. we're not allowed in it Monday to Saturday. The sign on the left behind the lamppost is telling us you can move over to turn left, but you can't carry on in that left lane. The bus lane still continues, so it's another gap just to allow vehicles to turn left at that point. Now we can see the sign on the left saying bus lane ends. The road markings tell us we can get back in that left lane, and it's no longer a solid white line, it's a broken white line. So for all those reasons, we know we can get back in it. If you're following this particular route, you'll be asked to go left at the lights, but there is something to watch out for. So the lights are on green, but you can see up at the junction, you've still got the give way marking. So although the lights may be on green, you can occasionally have traffic coming round. So you need to make sure, is it safe to go, rather than just base it on the fact that those lights are green at that point. Coming up at the roundabout, you'll be asked to follow the road ahead. Third exit, you need to look at the roundabout board. Third exit we can see is in the 12 o'clock position, so because there's no other road markings, we know that's left-hand lane. And it's just remembering on this road, it is a 30-mile-an-hour road. You've got the sign on the left. The fact there's a repeater on a 30 tends to mean there's a speed camera somewhere. And similar to earlier, on the right at the crossing, the bushes are quite close, so people can walk out just seemingly from nowhere. Just be aware of that as you come down to it. We've also got the signs telling us we've got an offset crossroads and the lights coming up, but on this route you're going to be asked to take the next road on the left where you can see the cars coming out from. In a second, you're going to see a highlighted roundabout board on the left. The fact that it's highlighted means people tend to miss it. You've got the blue sign on the left. Just make sure you go around the roundabout. You don't go over the top of it. And although it's a wide open road, remember there's no repeat signs, no 40s or 50s, national speed limits, so we know this road is still 30 miles an hour. One of the things that catches many on the Part 2 and learners is the fact the flow of traffic can just be going faster than 30 and you're just keeping up with it, unaware you're going over the speed limit. So make sure of the limit. At the roundabout, we're going right. Because it's a mini roundabout, just make sure of where that white van, for instance, is going. Are they turning? Many times you come up to that, they won't have a signal on. If they don't, you have to presume they're coming across towards you. As you come up to this roundabout, it will be take the second exit, which we can see is after 12, so we need the right hand lane and the signal right as well. Remember, as long as it's not a misleading signal, There's nothing wrong with putting a signal on which confirms to cars coming the other way exactly where you're going. Now, this part of the route is actually going to cover some of the roads that were done in the first part, but there is a difference, and you'll see as we go round what that is. Remember, we turned left here earlier and had to stop for the car. This time as we come round, there is nothing, so we are okay to keep going through. Then the trainee was asked to pull up when it was safe on the left. So he goes to pull up opposite the road and the junction, realises, moves forward, but then still kind of parks opposite the bus stop. Not completely opposite, but Murphy's Law, as you're about to see in a second, the bus comes down, pulls up in the bus stop, and is still level with our car. So therefore, the vehicle behind can't get through. When you're asked to pull up when it's safe to on the left, look, assess, and decide first, are there any junctions on the left or the right? Are there any bus stops on the left or the right? Are there any road markings, double yellow lines, anything to say you can't do it? So that's why the examiner says when it is safe to pull up on the left, not pull up on the left now. As we come up to the lights, we know we've got our change of speed limit sign from last time, and we're going left again. But this time, can you see the cars waiting in the middle of the junction? Now this time, there is only one, but the lights are changing. So sometimes you can go through. Do you notice the car opposite is coming through, even though the lights had changed at that point? So it's always good just to keep an eye on what's happening from the other side of this junction as well. As we come round, we know we've got our change back to 30 again. So it's just making sure we keep to the limit and we don't go with the flow of traffic or just build up our speed naturally. The key to passing the part 2 is sticking to those speed limits in your own personal driving, not just when you're training, because your natural driving needs to come out. So at the roundabout, you'll be asked to follow the road ahead and take the first road on the left. So remember mirrors and signal, because at this point you're turning left into a separate road. As we approach the lights, just make sure of the faded bike box, and then secondly, look through the tunnel to the other side, because although these lights change, sometimes vehicles are still coming through, so make sure before you decide what you're going to do with it. Now at the end of this road, we've got a really difficult box to look out for. At this junction, you have to be aware because any cars coming from the left can come onto that side, which they shouldn't, but that forces cars coming from the right turn on to that side. So you need to make sure before you start to pull across, is it safe to go over to it? Is anybody coming from the left? Anybody going straight ahead from opposite? And then, is anybody on that crossing? Now coming up is a situation that doesn't happen all the time, but it's a good one to learn from. Here as we come up, you can see the buses signalling to the left, which we presume means they're waiting at the bus stop. However, there is a junction in front of them. So here in a minute when we roll the clip, do you notice the bus's indicator goes off? Now, does that mean he's actually able to move on, but there's cars in front of him? Perhaps there is a line of cars because of the traffic lights being gone red. So is it because he's waiting at the bus stop, or is he stuck in traffic? At this point, with this view, we honestly have no idea. The trainee goes round and thankfully it is clear, but what if there was traffic there? Our next hazard is looking opposite. Not only are cars coming from the other side of the road and often will try and get round, but can you see how vehicles come out from the shops as well? So although our light is on green, we still need to check the junction just to make sure that it's clear before we decide whether it's safe to go or not. Here, because the road is wide enough to move out, you need to do mirrors and signal because, as you can see, it is designated as 2 lanes and you could actually have a vehicle at the side of you. Here, the trainee makes a good call. You can see the cyclist ahead of us on the left, but there's bollards opposite. Now you'll be asked to take the next road on the left. So if we tried overtaking at this point, we would have pulled across and then had to hit the brakes. So the better thing is to wait behind. Now here it's a really sharp turn again. Make sure you don't go over that centre white line. Remember, on your driving test in ADI Part 2, you're going to just be asked to follow the road ahead. They're not going to mention things coming up that are like the crossroads in front. So you really need to be paying attention. You've got the give way sign, the give way marking, the double broken white lines. But because it's slightly faded, it is very easy, and people often do try going across this without making effective observation. At the end of the road, you're going to be asked to turn right, and you can see as you come up, this is a completely closed junction. So you need to come up to the line, stop, look right, left, right, and if needed, peep and creep forward before you decide what you need to do, because it's so easy to be caught out. And what this is going to do is bring us back to our box junction in the middle that we covered earlier. On this particular route, you'll cover it 3 times from 3 different angles. So getting to know it will really improve your chances of passing the ADI Part 2 or your driving test in Featherstone. So at this point, they're going to ask you to take the next road on the right. Be aware of people on this crossing. It's so easy that people focus on the road on the right, they forget that. Now, this is where sometimes cars are already turning in from the opposite direction on the wrong side. So it's so natural and easy to try and turn before you should. Don't do it. If there is a car there, just stop, wait for them to clear, and then go across to where you should be. And next thing to remember, we'll make sure of what's coming from ahead. Again, so many are focused on the road on the right. The trees here, the bushes, hide people and scooters and cars. Make sure of what's coming towards you before you decide whether it's safe to turn or not. At the end of this road, we're going to turn left, and already you can see it is a sharp bend and there are parked vehicles there. So as you come round, what you need to do is look down past the parked vehicles. Is it safe before you decide to move over that line? So many times people come round this corner onto the wrong side of the road and then realise there's traffic coming. Well, by then, it's too late. At the end of the road, we are going to be asked to turn left. Now, the fact there's cars opposite means anything coming down is going to be on our side of the road. So doing right, left and right before you decide whether it's safe to pull out is not only a potential life-saving move, it will stop you from failing your test. Here, because of the meeting situations, you have to look at that car and assess what he's doing. He is stopping. If not, we could come up opposite the gap, wait for them to come through. But on this occasion, they are giving way to us, so we're okay to carry on. Now you're going to be asked to take the next road on the right, which then brings us back to our notorious box junction where you see the van coming across. And if you look, he's coming round on the wrong side of that junction. So as we said earlier, if that happens, don't be tempted to turn early, just come up, don't go onto that side, wait for the van to clear and then go. But also, is this next van going to do the same thing and come round on the wrong side? Thankfully he's not, so we're okay to turn as normal. Now if there are people crossing, just make sure that when they've crossed, the cars aren't then coming through towards you. As we come into the new road, looking down, you can see the traffic light already on red. Make sure you look for that. It's so easy to miss. And although we're on green, looking through the tunnel, is it clear? Is someone jumping the red light? Is there a cyclist already going through that went through on green, just hasn't had chance to come through? Have a look before you decide if it's safe to go or not. As we come down, we're going to look at two final stings in the tail on this route. The first is as you come up. Now, one of the obvious ones, people miss the direction arrows and ask the examiner, which way do you want me to go? Which isn't always good at impressing your examiner. The second is people are so focused on the traffic from the right. Do you notice on the left there's a crossing? So is anybody about to cross the crossing? Are the lights about to change? You've got to keep an eye on that. But so often people just look to the right. They pay no attention to the traffic lights, come round, and then it's too late. Either somebody's already on there or they don't spot the lights and try going through it. The next mistake they make is, trying to accelerate up with the flow of traffic. This road is still 30. There's been no change of speed limit signs from the road we were just on. And now we can see the change of speed limit signs to 40. So if you're not thinking, it's so easy to build up that speed and then end up doing 36, 37 in a 30, which of course is a straight fail. So now we know it's 40 miles an hour and we just keep up to it as best we can. So this is a 40, but let me show something that causes confusion. On the left behind the ambulance, you see the change to 30 sign. So you think, great, this is a 40. But then as you come round, you get a change of speed limit signs again to 40. Now, people often notice those more than the other signs. So they presume that this is back in a 30 mile an hour zone. And it's not. It's still 40 miles an hour. And just to emphasize that point, as you come down the road and we look on the right, we can see that we do indeed have a repeater sign that this road is still 40 miles an hour. Now there's two signs for us to look out for, and I thought it was worth looking at them. On the left, on the lamppost, you can see the top one, first of all, tells us to stop for the lollipop. So obviously they've had issues with people not stopping at lollipop crossings. First of all, you do realise if that's you're one of those people, you're putting children's lives at risk. Secondly, do you realise that by law, they are allowed to stop traffic? They have the legal power to stop traffic. They're backed up by the DVLA's TS60 regulation, which basically means you're failing to comply with a school crossing patrol sign. But also, if you try and sneak through while the lollipop person, is making their way back across the road, then you are still liable to 3 points on your license, which stays there for 4 years. And the legislation is backed up by Rule 87 of the Highway Code, which states that drivers must stop when asked to do so by a school crossing patrol. And if not, you get 3 points and you get prosecuted. The second sign told us of a new 30-mile-an-hour limit ahead, and we can see that in the road signs and the floor. And I always think when I look at these road signs, there's 2 huge crows sitting on top of them. But of course, they're the solar panels. So now the road hasn't changed, but it is 30. Looking at the road markings, both lanes go straight ahead at the roundabout. Now, the fact we've got 2 learners in front of us, one in a car, one in a lorry, on the ADI Part 2, you would be expected as an advanced driver and going for the advanced driving test, in effect, to get into that right-hand lane like those other cars are doing and get past the learners. If you pulled up behind, as this trainee did, it would be a fail on your test because you're not going as a learner driver, you're going as an advanced driver. So if both lanes say straight ahead and there is slower moving traffic, keep in the faster moving one. Now as we come round, there's 3 lanes on approach, so there's going to be 3 lanes on the roundabout. You've got to look at where your lane goes. So we can see the left lane goes off to the left. So we need to come round at an angle. Everybody here takes the shortest route across and straight lines the roundabout. Now hug that left curb all the way round. And as we come off, remember it is still 30 miles an hour. The speed limit has not changed from back when we saw the speed limit signs that look like the 2 black crows above them. But as you can see here, the traffic all starts to build up to 40. The danger is you're gonna go with them. And it's only at this point that you can see it actually changes to 40 miles an hour. One final sting in the tail, don't think that 20 sign on the left is for you. It's for the one-way road over on your left. So we hope that's helped you understand the Featherstone ADI Part 2 driving test route. If it has, leave us a comment underneath, let us know what you think. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. And for more great driving hints and tips for the ADI Part 2, ADI Part 3 and Standards Check, why not join up with a membership to our YouTube channel where you'll get unique insights, videos that aren't available publicly, which will help you to become a better teacher, a better driving instructor, and more confident of passing the ADI Part 2, ADI Part 3 and Standards Check test. My name's Chris from Driver Training. Remember, teach well, drive safely, and we'll see you all again in our next video.